Going live.
We are going live. Here we are. That's it. We are live.
We are live.
Welcome, everybody. Well, we've got a queue of people starting to come through the door as we've hit the hour. Look at that. Very, very prompt and punctual. And today is, thanks, Lauren, the 11th of September. If you've, for me, it's actually the 12th, Lauren.
Hmm.
It's
Good
Thursday the
morning.
12th. Good morning. I have the advantage of always living in the future.
Yes. What is it like over there? Can you tell us about the
It's
future?
I think
Is everything going to be okay?
it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be very good. It's gonna be a sunny day.
That's good to know. Good to know. It's
We're
hard to
rocking,
tell from the
yeah.
past,
It
but
is, but we're rocking.
the fact that we
So
have you in the future is
yeah, you do,
good
and I
thing.
will report back if anything goes wrong with the future. I will absolutely let you know.
Good.
So we have got a poll. If you've just arrived, I can see a number of you have already hopped in. That says how many hours. I mean, you can all read, but how many hours do you spend each week on participant recruitment? Um, This is Aaron. I think participant recruitment is oftentimes the reason that people get a research ops person in the door in the first place. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and obviously, like your rally. This is your beef. This is what you do.
Yeah, this is our bread and butter. The hair on fire, most painful problem that we we hear about when talking to research ops folks, researchers, designers who want to do research, anyone. It's the recruitment is such a pain, and so we're so excited to be able to solve that and start solving that. It's a never-ending series of nested problems, as any participant recruiter knows, or anyone who has tried recruiting participants knows. But yeah, fun problem to work on for sure.
It is. It's a real tussle between catering to endless amounts of variety in the types of people that people want to recruit, and yet trying to standardize processes in the midst of all of that variety. It's
Totally.
like an operational oxymoron.
Hmm.
I think it's
Yeah.
an oxymoron. Is that true?
Yeah. No, I think
We'd
good
have
way
to
of putting it.
Google oxymoron again and make sure I've got that right.
Yeah, because there's no one size fits all with recruitment. That's for sure.
Yeah,
'Cause every company tailors to different audiences. Every audience has their own unique needs and realities. So recruiting cardiologists in the Northeast who apply stents is very different from recruiting truck drivers in the West who drive throughout the night, and each one will have a very different recruitment process to be able
yeah,
to uh, learn from them.
yeah, and communication style and everything. And then even within each of those segments, um, each recruit will have completely different needs in terms of how they want the participant to engage, and it's endless. The variety, nuance is endless.
Endless. Yep. That's what we're here for, though.
Yeah, well, we've got. Let's kick off. I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Kate Towsey, and I run the Cha-Cha Club. The Cha-Cha Club is a members club for full-time operations professionals. If you are a research operations professional, you should be in the Cha-Cha Club. And these talks that we're going to see today are all by Cha-Cha Club members. Aaron, do you want to dive in and do your introduction?
Yes, absolutely. Nice to see everyone. I am the co-founder and CEO of Rally. We were founded just about 3 years ago to solve all the different problems that exist with participant management and recruitment. So we've been hard at work with research ops leaders and professionals like yourself, building a research ops platform with a CRM at our core, and just excited to be here and learn from all the amazing folks that we have speaking today.
So, as I mentioned, there's 6 bite-sized talks. When I say bite-sized, I mean like 5 to 10 minutes around about. So get your popcorn and settle in. All the talks are pre-recorded because we have got Cha-Cha Club members all over the world, and we wanted everybody to have a chance to share their amazing wisdom and knowledge around participant recruitment. But many of, I think almost all of the speakers are going to be around. They're in the chat answering questions. And then right at the end of the session, at about an hour on into the session, we will have a Q&A. So stick around for that. At that point, you can actually throughout the session, pop your questions into the chat. Lauren Gibson, who's also from Raleigh, is working backstage, and she'll be picking up questions and throwing them on screen for us both during the first hour and then in the Q&A as well. So dive in and get involved. We'd love to have a two-way conversation with you. On that note, Aaron, should we dive into our first presentation? This is Steph Kingston from Cisco, and she lives in Canada, if you wanted to know.
Let's do it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steph Kingston, and my pronouns are she, her. And I am coming to you today from Calgary, Canada. We are here to talk about how you can improve everybody's research experience by writing better screeners. So why are you here today listening to me and not out feeling the earth under your feet and the wind on your face? Actually, you could still do that, by the way. I won't judge. But for when you get back, I've been a research operations specialist for over a year at Cisco Security. I have spent the last year recruiting for over 30 studies filled with highly technical and highly paranoid participants. They are not. Hello, everybody. My name is Steph Kingston, and my pronouns are she, her. And
Looks like
I
we
am
had
coming
a
to you
little
today
problem
from
there. Back to
Calgary,
it.
Canada. We are here to talk about how you can improve everybody's research experience by writing better screeners. So why are you here today listening to me and not out feeling the earth under your feet and the wind on your face? Actually, you could still do that, by the way. I won't judge. But for when you get back, I've been a research operations specialist for over a year at Cisco Security. I have spent the last year recruiting for over 30 studies filled with highly technical and highly paranoid participants. They are not easy to find and harder to convince to come talk to a stranger about their security operations. I have also had the privilege to learn from two amazing women veterans of recruitment from the B2C and academia worlds, my teammate Laurel Schreiber and my manager Carolyn Morgan. I also love potatoes, and yes, this will be relevant shortly. So first off, what even is a screener? For the purposes of this presentation, it is a survey sent to a pool of potential research participants. It's used to determine who in that pool is an actual viable candidate for the study you are recruiting for. If you wanted to conduct research with people who roast potatoes, you would start with a group of people who know what potatoes are, and then use questions to determine which participants roast their potatoes, maybe how often, and any particular tools they do so with. The output of a screener should be a list of candidates who are not just qualified but interested in your research. Optimizing your screener is going to help you with what, as user research folks, our number one goal should always be: prioritizing the experience and time of our participants. They are giving us their time. It is up to us to prioritize it over ours. And that doesn't just happen in the interview, it happens from the moment your information comes across their desk. A good screener is going to save your time, your researcher's time, but most importantly, your participants' time. Plus, you will get better responses from your viable candidates and remove bad actors who are out to, at best, waste your time. Now, you probably know who you do want in your study, but there are two types of people you don't want in: bad fits and bad actors. Bad fits are just living their life, trying to help you do your research. It's not even their fault that they aren't what you're looking for. So don't waste their time, let them go gently, and maybe even flag them for future research. Bad actors, on the other hand, are at best trying to get some extra lunch money by being a little untruthful on a screener, and at worst, they might be scammers or even attackers. You want them identified, removed, and kept out of this and future studies. So, how do you use your screener to filter out bad fits and bad actors? Start by telling a story. Humans are wired to respond to stories and narrative. Now, keep in mind the participant is also reading you right now. They are looking to see if this is worth their precious time. If your outreach and screener are sloppy, confusing, or too long, you will lose viable candidates who just can't be bothered to continue. There is a really fine balance between providing enough context so that a participant feels confident in what they are signing up for, but doesn't know exactly what profile you're looking for. This is really important for weeding out bad actors later on. If you're looking for people who roast potatoes, your outreach might look something like, "We're interested in learning more about how people cook their food." This gives me a nice broad pool of candidates to start with who don't necessarily know that I'm looking for potato eaters or roasters, and then I can use my screener to filter down to my viable candidates. Your screener should start with broad, more generic questions, and as you move forward, use skip logic to remove people who are not good fits. For example, do you like potatoes? How often do you cook potatoes? And remove the folks who don't like potatoes or don't cook with potatoes as often as you're looking for. Don't waste their time by moving them forward when they will never be a viable candidate. You wouldn't start a story with the climax, and you wouldn't start your screener with your most complicated questions. So now you've gotten past your initial filtering and you're into the more detail-based questions. You're going to want to use some red herrings. Now, red herrings are intentionally wrong, fake, or false answers in a question. Bad actors are trying to get into your study using any information you give them. This is why it's important not to give too much away in your outreach and screener content. They will latch on to anything they can to try to get an interview and get paid. Often that comes in a shotgun style approach of selecting as many options as possible in a list in an effort to get past filters. Red herrings should look legitimate enough that a viable candidate will either think, "Well, that's fake," or "I've never heard of that." But a bad actor with no subject matter knowledge may think they sound real and select them. And then you just use skip logic to remove anybody who selects that answer. But always Google your red herrings because it is shockingly easy to invent a name of a product or a vegetable that somebody has already used. I highly recommend product or thing-based red herrings if you can swing them, as behavioral red herrings are much, much more difficult to use. I've come to find that most people, especially in cybersecurity, but in other industries as well, wear many hats. And you may remove a viable potato roaster just because they happen to also fry their potatoes sometimes. So for this example, I would remove anybody who says they roast their potatoes in the toaster. Now, is it possible that they do that? Yes, there's a slim possibility. But they are much more likely to be a bad actor selecting every option in an effort to move forward. And if there are folks out there roasting their potatoes in unexpected ways, I will hopefully catch them with the other option. I would also remove anybody answering none of the above, as they aren't a fit for my study and I should let them go live their lives. Now, near the end of the screener is where you can get into those meatier, more detailed questions, because at this point, you hopefully have mostly viable candidates. Open-ended text answers are a fantastic way to identify viable candidates from bad fits or bad actors. It is often obvious very quickly when a question is answered by somebody who does this thing every day. But that being said, you are going to need to prepare yourself for AI-generated answers. They are a fact of life and they aren't going anywhere. The advantage you have over a bad actor is they, at least right now, aren't trying very hard. And they often paste in the first answer they get out of a Gen AI machine. They are trying to apply to as many screeners as possible to get paid. AI also tends to have better and more elaborate grammar than humans. Our fallibility is actually a delightful green flag in that department. AI is growing, but so are resources that can help you filter out AI. So arm yourself with knowledge because the bad actors certainly aren't going to stop. Okay, now you are armed and dangerous, and I expect you to use these new powers for good. Kick the scammers to the curb, do better research, and remember one more time for the people in the back that we are not, will not, and should not ever be a participant's number one priority. Thank you so much. I'm Steph Kingston. Have a wonderful rest of your day and let me know how you like to cook your potatoes.
That was just right at the end of Steph Kingston. I'm sure she said I had a wonderful day. Aaron, do you want to dive into the topic of artificial intelligence and what that's doing to the world of recruiting? Is that something that you're needing to deal with right now?
It's interesting. It's definitely coming up more and more. Yeah, as Stephanie mentioned, we're seeing participants, of course, use the power of AI, just like we're all using the power of AI, but for slightly different purposes. I'm curious to pose also a question to the audience to see how many of your screeners have you seen come through with AI-generated responses? What are some of the tactics that you're going through to identify, is this legit or is this not? Because who knows at this point, with the blog posts that we're reading, with the emails that we're receiving, some of them seem maybe just a little bit off, but they a year or two ago could have seemed pretty legit. So we're not seeing any massive advancements yet in anti-AI kind of technologies to be able to call out like this is definitely an AI screener response. But I'm curious to hear if others are starting to find creative ways of tackling this.
Maybe what we'll do is during the next talk between Lauren, you and I, we can put together a quick poll around that question and find out what are people thinking, what's happening in their space. I have heard from some people that you can start to see AI in responses because they're very well written responses and they're quite detailed about like in much more detailed way than you might do if you were just quickly kind of filling out the form, which is really interesting. It's like that thing where scams coming through are really beautifully written these days. Not all of them, but phishing can be beautifully written these days.
Yeah, a bit too beautiful. I think the good scammers would probably be able to prompt a little bit, say, pretend I'm just an average survey taker, as when you give the response instead of the full-blown thing. But yeah, super interesting.
I'm going to pop something up onto the stream. Here's from Jared. We've had some AI-generated content come through free responses, but also heard cases of participants even using AI responses in live interview sessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
So literally, they're typing into the chatbot as the interviewer is prompting them with a question, and then they're reading the response that comes up on the prompt. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's going to be such a fascinating world to watch. Amazing. Well, thank you, Steph, for the brilliant talk. There are so many tips in there. If you feel, I just want to watch it again and note everything down, there will be a recording sent to you after the session by email. But also all the videos will be as independent videos up on the Cha Cha Club YouTube, which I think will pop up in the chat at some point, that link. So keep an eye out for that. Let's hop on to the next talk from Laurie McGowan, who is Research Operations Manager at Intuit MailChimp.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurie McGowan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am based out of Atlanta, Georgia. That is the somewhat hot, somewhat swampy part of the US, in case you were curious. But before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit about me and what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'm a research operations manager at MailChimp. I have been in the research ops field for over 4 years now. And in that time, I've used many tools, currently cresting 20 in my own personal tool stack. And I've recruited for hundreds of research projects at different levels across many departments and functions. And today I'm excited to share with you how you can become more effective at recruitment by using the right tools. Fun facts about me before we get started. I love gardening. I love my giant 13-year-old lab Great Dane, and I love video games, if you couldn't tell. But especially Zelda, and I hope there's 1 or 2 fans out there. And if there are, I'm thrilled you'll get my many references. But I think effective recruitment is like building up a character in a video game. It starts with having the right tool stack. Link here, the hero in the Zelda series, starts with no shoes, no armor, no fancy weaponry, just a stick. And as you explore and navigate the game, you pick up new tools that make you stronger. So consider yourselves characters in The Legend of Recruitment. Warning, I'm not a designer here, but for demonstration's sake, I've made a diagram. Research ops, you are Link, your weapons are your recruitment tools, and recruitment is Calamity Ganon, who we need to defeat. So your tools are like weaponry. The more you have, the more you level up, the more powerful your character becomes, and the more effective you are at conquering recruitment. This here is Calamity Ganon. Also, maybe how recruitment can make us feel if we were to put it visually. At the end of the day, you don't want to face Calamity Ganon here, which can be larger recruitment, simultaneous recruitment, quick turn recruitment, etc., with just a stick. We know a sword is stronger than a stick, but how do we find the sword? In this game, the more tools that you have at your disposal, the closer you, Link, get to that master sword and being able to tackle recruitment in whatever form with ease. But let's back up and talk about why effective recruitment is significant. So let's fill in the blank on what recruitment is. First, it's important. It can make or break research since it provides the context and nuance that supports quant, and it helps us avoid assumptions. Next, it's a skill. It takes a bit of finesse to learn at each company and each new target audience, and there's usually a learning curve. Lastly, it's time consuming. Recruitment can easily be an entire job, and for some it is. And recruitment has a number of moving parts. It's finding the right candidates, it's getting consent forms, it's interviewing, data analysis, compensation, and so much more. And that leaves a lot of room to get overwhelmed by tedious tasks. So it's on us research ops to make sure this doesn't happen. But how do we do that? How do we prevent ourselves from getting bogged down in the minutia? How do we avoid missteps? How do we prevent elongated timelines? Or how do we maybe help teams speed up their time to insight? The answer is tools. So you're Link, and you've got this big battle coming up. Let's say it's a hefty recruitment project. How do we battle recruitment with a sword, not a stick? So with a stick, we're pulling lists individually, emailing participants, manually scheduling interviews, reaching out for consent, then setting compensation. Our tool stack is minimal, nothing is automated, and we're struggling to get the right recruit. Overall, it's exhaustive and time intensive. With a sword, we're leveraging the right tools for the recruit, we're integrating those tools when and where possible, and we're considering in the long term how we can help teams self-serve. Most of us exist somewhere in between stick and sword, and it's hard to jump straight from stick to sword. And that's where it's important to get a hold of each level of tools first. Similar to Zelda, you learn to use your shield first. That's going to protect you, and that's level 1. Then you get your bow, and this is for more long distance enemies and battles. That's level 2. And finally, you learn to use a sword. This makes battles a breeze and preps you for the biggest battle at the end. That's level 3. So first, Link needs to protect himself before he can fight with a sword. So we need to get the basics down with our shield, level 1 tools. First, use scheduling tools to book your candidates. Gone are the days of back and forth scheduling. Take 5 emails down to 1, and there are lots of tools out there to help you do this. Next, use survey tools to do the screening for you. This is going to help you weed through a list of hundreds, if not thousands, of potential candidates. So stop the cold emailing, find candidates who are interested in you and are right for the project. You can also integrate these platforms into your screener tool, so once they qualify, they can automatically book. Next, choose incentive tools that allow you to pull reports and track participant spend over time. This is particularly helpful in tracking your team budget and predicting project spend over time, maybe seeing if certain audiences respond better to certain incentive levels. Now that you, Link, can protect yourself using your shield, you're ready for a bow or level 2 tools. I recommend using participant management tools and tossing the spreadsheets. This is going to give you access to reporting so you can easily track who was involved in what study, build on participant profiles over time, and even develop cohorts of research friendlies by marking your best participants. This will also be helpful in testing your response rates and tracking whether you see a boost from increased compensation or new messaging. And if it's possible, connect it to your customer database. So think APIs and third-party integration developers like Zapier, so you can update their data in real time. Next, lean on panel recruitment platforms. I tend to prefer these when recruitment criteria isn't hyper specific. It's less focused on customer or first party data, and it's more general demographic data. It can be worth the cost to have an experienced team in the background finding participants for you. And they can handle multiple recruits at once. So think of it like duplicating yourself. Now there are 3 of you. And it's even better when you can connect this to your scheduling tool. So when the right candidate comes along, it's easy for them to book. This can really speed up and streamline your recruitment process. Finally, you're ready for your sword, aka level 3 tools. When you get here, you're ready for things like an online community. Think of this like a curated group of enthusiastic customers who've opted into helping with research. They are dedicated to providing feedback and improving the experience for customers like them. Online communities also allow you to focus on long-term participant engagement and relationship building. There are a number of tools out there, and they offer varying levels of support. Next, this isn't exactly a tool, but more of a program that can be paired with a tool and allows researchers and people who do research to help themselves recruit for their projects. That program can consist of a tool to house participants that they can recruit from. It's got materials to help them get up to speed on how to recruit, conduct interviews, or complete consent. You then manage the tool, put guardrails in place to ensure customers aren't overtapped, legal and compliance needs are met, and a smooth experience is set up for the researchers and for your customers. The sword level is last because it takes time to build up to. It has a pretty hefty front end and it tends to be on the more expensive side. But the wait and the work can be worth it because it helps free up your time to continue optimizing recruitment, not just doing it. So we covered a lot today. So if you walk away with anything from my short talk here, please look for tools that help you do these things. Automate scheduling and report on compensation. Screen participants to find warm leads who are the right fit through a survey platform. Track and manage participants over time. So ditch the spreadsheets, use a CRM. Outsource less specific, less high stakes recruitment to panel recruitment platforms. And invest in long-term community panels or self-serve programs. Remember, recruitment should never be a challenge. You have the tools and the secrets of the game in front of you. You have the tools at your disposal to play and win in the legend of recruitment. So now it's time to press play and begin. That's it for me. Again, my name is Lori McGowan, and you can reach me at the email here or find me on LinkedIn. Thank you all for listening and letting me speak today. Cheers.
Amazing. We've got all the gamers have popped up with saying, writing things that I'm going, I'm either too old or I need to go and Google. I don't have the gamer speak, Aaron.
Me neither. We're together on that, but the creativity on these is next level, I have to say.
Yeah. ResearchOps people are so creative, and I often feel like because so many people assume that research operations is more administration and spreadsheets, that they forget that there's so much design work and creativity in designing all the systems that make all this stuff work. One of the things that I think is so fascinating about Laurie's talk is the levels. And I do love, I've played enough games in my life to know that you kind of have these different levels, and then you get from stick to sword to having a shield, and you pick these things up on the way. But how do you find, like, with your vendor hat on, as Rally's CEO and co-founder, how do you build a tool that caters to all these different levels? Because if you get someone who's coming in and they've got like just a small team versus someone like Laurie who's talking about automations and communities, is that something you've got to work with all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say, a startup can't do absolutely everything. So we have picked our lane in terms of who we're supporting and where we're enabling them to go. But really, every different company is in a different part of this journey. Rome wasn't built overnight. It's a cliche to say, but when it comes to recruitment and enabling self-serve research, it's really true. And where we are best served to support our customers is when there is already some sort of tooling in place that we're upgrading. So usually some hodgepodge of spreadsheets and email automation tools and different scheduling. But in the end of the day, there's no real way to enable a self-serve program with a hodgepodge of disconnected, discombobulated tools. And that's where Rally comes in to enable with robust recruitment and participant management, with the right integrations and deep governance, so that people can spend less time figuring out how to target the right participants and get in front of them, and more time on some more next level research ops tasks.
when you're playing a game like that, it guides you through the game. You're not left like wandering around the universe, wondering what do I do next. It'll have like little cues and things to kind of tell you come here or fight this person to get that thing. And I think that's so interesting just in terms of recruitment or operations, that with the people coming into your game, into your universe of recruiting, you need to have that same thing where you're allowing them to pick up what they need to pick up to do the next thing, which might be going back to that theme of variety, the endless variety in recruiting, their own completely unique journey through the game, and yet it needs to be easy for them as well.
Yeah.
So,
So is keep it stupid simple. When
yeah.
there's too many options or too many settings and configurations, that's perfect for the real folks, because you love having all the options in the world for how to design the process. But then when it comes to enabling your stakeholders, you don't want to necessarily expose every single pathway that they can go down. You want to guide them down the path to success and help them get to those next levels without wasting too many brain cells in
Yeah,
the
it's
process.
such a good analogy. Thank you, Laurie. I think you've given the world of research ops and recruiting an entirely new way of thinking about it. We do have a poll, which should pop up live soon. Here we go. Yeah, we've got some nice responses coming in already. So 50% so far have not seen any responses in screeners, but some not sure. There's the call for your blog post, Steph, and 21 yes. So keep answering that poll. And we've got the other one as well, if you haven't answered that one yet. Right, let's hop into the next one, which is from Luana Cruz, who is in Brazil. She's a research ops specialist for Banco BV. And I mentioned earlier that we've had potatoes, sticks, swords, and now we're going to have cakes.
Hi, my name is Lana Cruz. I'm talking directly from Brazil. And right now I'm at Banco BV as a UX research operations. Today I'm going to tell you something that probably nobody's ever told you. The future of recruitment is a cake. I know, weird, right? In this talk, I hope to teach you how to navigate in different environments when it comes to recruitment processes and kitchens. So, before I dive into recruitment, I must say that I grew up in my mom's kitchen. But even though she's a baker, the first time I learned how to bake a cake, it was at my auntie's house. And I know it sounds like it didn't matter, but bear with me. My mom had a neat kitchen, the best resources, ingredients to bake, and most of all, she had time. My auntie's kitchen was chaotic. She did the best with what she had in the fridge, and most of the time she did not have time enough to bake. My mom used to say there's no cake recipe for things in life and work, which means that cake were easy to bake. For her, there's just one way to do it. For my auntie, there was no right way to do it. I never figured out which one was right, and this story has stuck with me until the first time I listened. Lua, I don't do research because our recruitment sucks. Ouch. And just like my mom's kitchen, the first time I was sent to improve a recruitment process, I had the most neat kitchen I ever had. I had expensive ingredients, I had the best refined sugar. Money wasn't a problem to solve a problem. We could spend the money we wanted to solve a problem if we could solve it. I mean, not everything we wanted, but it was the perfect scenario. It was a controlled environment, and we had each ingredient for it. But then, after that, when I changed companies, I had a whole new problem. And the problem was the money. And every single ingredient that I used to think that it was the only way to do a perfect process for recruitment. What I didn't know yet was that perfect recipes only work in a controlled environment, and so is research operations. So, Lua, how to bake a perfect recruitment cake in different kitchens like that? Let me show you what I was dealing with. So, in the first company, I had a database to manage, a 5K user database managed in a proper tool. I created a user community that was tracked down with profiles and history and rates of engagement in each tenant that we used to use. And finally, a great budget. The second one only had a little group of users that had opt-in to participate in research. For all other things, we had to rely on the CRM team, distant with other priorities. The biggest problem is that we had a lot. No, listen to me. We had a lot of spreadsheets. And every time that we had to get started in a study, we had to fulfill all those spreadsheets. And please, don't even ask me about budget. Within this scenario, what should I do? And let me remind you that just like my cake recipes, the first thing I know is the perfect environment. So when I got to the second, I had to reinvent myself. And let me show you how I did it. Well, even if I had all the resources and the approach, the first thing to improve processes is to prove the value of working processes. So my approach is always first, what the best can I do in the scenarios with unlimited resources? And two, how can I prove the value of me using all those resources at the same time? In the second challenge, I changed. I couldn't do a big project like the first one and prove value after. I had to do it step by step. Do little parts with what I had in my hands, test, and then improve, and then test again. And in each test, I showed improvements and how that could be better if I had more resources. Different approach to the same goal to make the process faster and easier and better. All this to ask you one single question. Lua, what do cakes and recruitment have in common? And let me tell you that they both are product. So when it comes to products, the first step is always create an MVP, a minimal viable product. But what determines how your MVP will look and do is the same thing as the act of baking a cake. Everything is changed by your budget and time and resources. If you have unlimited resources, then your MVP must be robust and bigger and great. But if you don't, if all this is limited and scarce, you can still light a very good start. So, back to my challenges in bakery. In the first company, my strategy was to turn all their processes in a product with a clear job to be done. People who do research may have the easiest and fastest way to recruit to their studies. Also, my metrics were pretty simple. First, reduce the numbers of days spent in recruitment. And let me tell you, spoiler, on the MVP, we reduced from 14 days to 5. And on the next step, we reduced from 5 days to 6 hours because all products must evolve. And finally, one metric that I work hard and I always put on the game when I contract some too is RRR, internal rate of return. For us, it was almost zero, which means that the money we spend in a tool is paid by the reduction of a working hour of the designers. On the other hand, in my second company, I decided to go smaller, as I said before. My biggest problem was the amount of steps that we had to follow just to recruit users, and how many times the research ops person, yes, that was me, spent in following all those steps. So, the first thing, the process had to be fed by designers. They were too afar, they had to participate, they were the major interested after all. But it wasn't fair to put the designers to do all those steps. So I look inside my fridge and find the same tool that data was using to integrate all those steps and made it automatically. After that, my metrics were basic. Reduce the step of recruitment and reducing the effort for the re-ops person. And we made it. And finally, what the difference between those two scenarios? None. They were both delicious to bake and eat it. And so will be your recruitment process. With or without all the resources, looking perfect or not, with the best tool on the market or not. It will be delicious because you made it just for your team and your environment, and they will fit. And that's how you bake a turbo recruitment for your team. I hope you enjoy baking this with me, and thank you.
I'm hungry.
Officially.
Yeah, officially. I think I want to anoint Luana the queen of metrics. She just, she makes the point that you can have the best ingredients, and that's amazing if you do, but you can really, depending on your scenario and when you listen and learn and test and retest and iterate, you can get to a place where you can deliver something that's excellent, and then you can measure all the way through. I absolutely love the idea of the IRR, the internal rate of return, to be able to show your investors that maybe we've paid for this, but we've gone from 6 days to 3 days, I forget the numbers, but then to 6 hours, and how much time they're actually saving on people recruiting to be able to then cover all the costs and basically be like a zero cost environment.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think the cake is a perfect analogy for this, because think about the perfect cake that you bake. It has very measured ingredients. It's all measurable. It's all repeatable. And that's the important thing that needs to occur with any recruitment process, is you need to make it measurable. You need to show improvement over time. You need to show whatever metrics you're tracking, whether it's volume of research, number of people that you're enabling, your study take rate, your time to recruit, that you're driving improvement across all of these. But that's not enough either, because then you need to show that it's connecting to some sort of business value too. And that was Luana there, showing how connected to time savings, and was able to offset the cost of tooling. So I think that's brilliant. And every research ops person has to go through that journey of connecting what they're working on and the metrics that they're influencing with what the metrics the business care about, or else there's not much money to get without that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I want to go and move into Luana's office space for a week to just go and see how she's running things there. It sounds amazing. There are on the chat, if you look at the last little bit, it is just cakes and claps and hearts. So thank you, Luana, for brightening up our day. It's brilliant. So good. Next up, we have Shannon Liu, who's the Senior Research Ops Specialist at IKEA, based in Amsterdam.
Hello, I'm Shannon, and I'm a Senior Research Operations Specialist. I've been working in research operations for over 5 years now, and I've worked in all different types of projects with all different requirements. And in case you're wondering, outside of work, I love to pet dogs, eat spicy food, and experience the outdoors. But I'm not talking about that today. Today, I'm going to share some tips about how to start with specialized participant recruitment processes. So you want to recruit in a new way, but you're not sure what to do. Well, I'm here to help. When I say specialized recruitment, I mean recruitment processes that you may not always be doing on a regular basis or just new and unfamiliar to you. It could mean diversity in audience, accessibility, or other types of inclusive research, or you could be doing research in unfamiliar cultures, or maybe these participants are internal employees or B2B recruits. Or all the participants are familiar, but the methodology is different. Maybe you want to do an intercept recruitment process and you've never done research on the spot. There are all different types of recruitment processes that you could be exploring, but your current processes aren't suitable. Well, then hopefully these following 3 tips can help you get started tackling your next project. So to start, I always say to make a plan. Give yourself a longer timeline than your familiar research processes take, and take time to consider aspects of recruitment that you might not have before. Because let's face it, things are going to be complicated. You're going to have to spend some more time planning and thinking through your project. Why not set yourself up for success? So there's the original plan I just told you to make. It's golden, literally, but while important, it looks a little lonely there, right? Because not everything is going to work. Participants aren't going to show up, your new methodology falls apart, or maybe you reach out to the entirely wrong audience. That's okay. That's why you plan for extra time and a backup plan. What I mean by this is outside of the original plan, you can do things like make room for adjustments and requirements, having less screener questions, doubling the recruitment lead time, having extra backup participants, alternate interview days, or generally anything that you can stretch to complete the project goal. I always say to over-communicate with stakeholders, participants, partners, anyone during these processes, just in case, to set expectations for the project. People are generally understanding as long as you let them know. After all, you want to make sure your stakeholders understand how much more complicated something like recruiting beekeepers who like pizza in the middle of the ocean might be, if you find yourself in that situation somehow. So the second tip is to look into and leverage your network and relationships. Be scrappy, do a little research around you. You'd be surprised at how much you already know or have access to. Your network is deeper than you think. You probably already have solutions that you're not aware of or have a starting point already. Don't be afraid to ask around your research peers, the internet, anyone else who might have done this obscure thing you're going to do. Maybe you'll even find out it's not really as obscure as you think. You can try talking to marketing folks, country managers, your friends outside of work even. Someone else could know something along the lines of your recruitment. You don't always have to go through recruitment agencies or participant databases. For example, I work frequently with accessibility research, and participants are often harder to find, or they're repeat participants or have had other situations that aren't ideal. So what we've done is started to reach out to nonprofit organizations, groups who are very familiar with the participants but very unfamiliar with user research, and we guided them to assist in the role of agencies in recruitment. Or to reach delivery couriers and countries our teams were less familiar with, we connected with country managers who were both familiar with the country cultures and had control over their courier schedules and could directly slot in an interview during their shifts. Something we wouldn't have been able to do, we wouldn't have been able to control or do without them. These are all invaluable resources that I wouldn't have been able to do with the typical recruitment process. You can't find people if you don't ask. So start first with what you have around you. Surprise yourself. Lastly, remember to adjust the remaining logistics accordingly. Don't forget about the rest of the process. You might think that the hard part of specialized participant recruitment is finding the participants themselves, but that's sometimes just the beginning. Maybe you might think that this is the only part of the process that needs to be adjusted, that once you have the right participants, the rest will come smoothly. So the chart kind of looks like this for you. But actually, it might look something more like this, where you have plenty of other parts of the process that need to be adjusted too. So continuing on the accessibility research example, yes, reaching the participant is already a challenge, but now you have to understand that you're now working with sensitive data, like medical data. So you need to be compliant with laws around that. And also maybe their assistive technologies won't be as compatible with your video conferencing software, so you need an alternate option. Then at the end of the study, they can't access the incentives either because the card is in an incompatible format like PDF. Suddenly, you have multiple new things to accommodate for. And I'm sure you'll encounter plenty more things that I haven't even mentioned. But that's okay. That's why you budgeted extra time from tip 1 to figure things out, right? Like I said, it's important to remember that specialized participant recruitment involves all the pieces of the pie, and acquiring the participants is just the start. So make room for the rest. And with these 3 tips, I hope I gave you some good places to start with for specialized participant recruitment. But I do want to add one more thing. If there's a case that you've exhausted everything you can, just know that you can always say no to a request or ask for an adjustment. Plans change, participant requirements aren't always the same, stakeholders want different things, so why can't you ask for change as well? In the end, if you realize that this recruitment is just a bit too difficult or requires too much effort, don't worry, you can always have a conversation about it. Maybe there are areas that you can change, or in the end, not all projects work out, and that's okay too. Don't let this change whether you proceed with specialized participant recruitment in the future. And yes, there is so much more that you can do to prepare for the recruitment process, but this is a start. The world is constantly changing, and so will your research priorities. Don't panic. This won't be the first time you'll have to adapt, and it won't be the last, but at least the next time you will have a formula to begin any type of research and can adjust from there. The more you do it, the easier it gets, and I hope this encourages you to seek out more specialized recruitment projects in the future. Thank you so much for your time, and once again, I'm Shannon Liu, and please reach out if you have any questions. I'm always curious about new recruitment challenges. Thank you.
Another amazing talk. I loved the images. And the thing that came up to me is we've spoken a lot about tooling and structuring, and in operations we can get very focused on not just the tools, but also all of the infrastructure around it. And Shannon's reminded us that this can be a very personal thing as well, that you got to be responsive, you can really get in, you've got to reach out to your networks and then beyond those. And it's about connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we bring it down to the core elements, it's people recruiting people to do research with people, and we can't forget about that. If we automate too much of this away, we lose that personal touch, that personal connection to the brand, the company that you're doing research with in the first place, and yeah, super important.
I'll throw a curveball in here. I think there's such a alignment between dating apps and recruiting, because you're really trying to find this one person. I mean, oftentimes with researchers, they're trying to find a cohort of 7 or 10 or whoever, and sometimes with quant, hundreds of people. But particularly with product managers, actually, they're often just looking to chat to one person once a week, have like a customer date in a sense. And I've always been intrigued that there is so much that we can learn from the very well-funded and practiced world of dating. How do you connect with that one person who fits your criteria, doesn't want children, has pets, and lives in your area, etc.?
Totally. Yeah, how fun would it be if a PM wakes up in the morning, does a few swipes, yes, no, and then an interview is scheduled.
Exactly, just like that, no problem. There's actually an app that's come up here in Australia, and it will even arrange the date for you. It will book a local restaurant that's near to both of you and arrange it all for you, and you just pitch up.
That's great.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
it should be something like that. Did you want to talk about niche audiences?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's as we discussed earlier, every company has not only their specific audience that they're trying to target, but their even more sub niche audiences underneath that. And funny enough, my first job out of college was as a recruiter for experts. So I was tasked with finding the most specific people in the world, that there's maybe 5 or 10 of them with this specific background, and I'd have to go pinpoint them through online forums or different communities that they live in, use referral networks, and convince them when we got on the phone, like, can you please spend an hour with my client, sharing more about your background. So the most value sometimes is found in the most niche, and it's all about the human touch with that process.
That's good to hear that you've been in the trenches of recruiting as well.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to pull
stranger.
up one thing here, which I thought was cool. Victoria was saying that she's getting a lot of artificial intelligence responses in recruiting. And Laurie came up with this idea of a new talk called How to Beat the Bots. And I think that's an amazing idea. Cool. Let's move on to our penultimate talk from Anna Gabor, who is in Budapest, as you will learn. And she's the UX Research Operations Lead for Cision. I hope I pronounced that right, Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Gabor, and I work in research operations at Brandwatch. I'm a fan of user research, as probably most of you who are here today. I worked as a researcher before, so I experienced user research recruitment firsthand with all its challenges. My experience focuses on recruitment of business users, as in the past few years I worked on B2B software products. I mention this because this defines the viewpoint I'm speaking from today. And lastly, I'm based in Budapest, Hungary. If you've never been here before, it looks like this. Today, I'm going to speak about participant recruitment in an ecosystem. I worked with different teams on recruitment before, and this made me realize that successful participant recruitment for users. Hi, I'm Anna Gabor, and I work in research operations at Brandwatch. I'm a fan of user research, as probably most of you who are here today. I worked as a researcher before, so I experienced user research recruitment firsthand with all its challenges. My experience focuses on recruitment of business users, as in the past few years I worked on B2B software products. I mention this because this defines the viewpoint I'm speaking from today. And lastly, I'm based in Budapest, Hungary. If you've never been here before, it looks like this. Today, I'm going to speak about participant recruitment in an ecosystem. I worked with different teams on recruitment before, and this made me realize that successful participant recruitment for user research doesn't happen siloed by a single team. It really is a collaborative effort. So in the next few minutes, let's explore some strategies together. But first, let me start this story with a metaphor. The way collaboration happens in user research reminded me of an ecosystem. And an ecosystem immediately reminded me of a forest. In a forest, the trees are separate entities and are capable of living on their own. But they thrive when they connect to one another and they can support one another. So with this analogy, let's look into how I see some of the characteristics of a recruitment ecosystem. So in a recruitment ecosystem, customer interactions are interconnected. Imagine that the teams you work with, let them be either marketing, support, or any other teams, also have interactions with the same person, a customer of yours you are talking to. In a recruitment ecosystem, maybe not surprisingly, different functions or teams collaborate. These functions might have different goals. For example, it's different how a marketing team or a data privacy team measures success. But a smooth recruitment process will benefit everyone because we have seen that this system is very much interconnected. And lastly, all this happens to make recruitment a better experience for all of those who participate in it, participants and everyone who works in it. Let's pause for a moment and think of any other dimensions you could add here to define your own recruitment ecosystem. In the next few minutes, I'm going to speak about 3 pillars of a recruitment ecosystem. I cover some ideas here of which internal functions you might want to collaborate with to improve the participant recruitment experience. But of course, it might be different for every team. Let's start with the data and analytics teams. I love working with data and analytics teams because they have an extensive knowledge on how to gather, process, organize, and retrieve data. One way to collaborate with data analytics teams is identifying the right customers for research participation. For example, ensuring that the people you invite for research have the right context and familiarity with your product. You might know this information from product usage statistics. Furthermore, data teams can be your partner in building internal tools to make recruitment easier by accessing the data you need. So it's a collaboration that can improve recruitment process in many ways for you. The second pillar of this ecosystem is legal and data protection. Meeting data privacy protection laws, research ethics, and other related legislation is key. Anyone who participates in research should know what they consent to and how their data will be used. Your legal teams or legal advisor can help you sort out consent forms, NDAs, and data retention policies as well. And the list could go on, of course. If this pillar works for you well, you can ensure compliance with regulations, create a safe space, protect customer data, and in the end, build trust, which is very important in user research. And the third pillar of this recruitment ecosystem is customer experience teams. This category may include any team who manage customer interactions. For the sake of time, I'd like to mention 2 ways to collaborate with customer experience teams on research recruitment. One way is aligning different customer interactions. Customer experience teams should be aware of outgoing user research communication and vice versa to align the experience and provide a comprehensive experience for customers. And the second way is promoting participation in user research on different outgoing marketing materials. As a summary, I'd like to highlight that recruitment can hardly be done in isolation, and it works better in an ecosystem. A well-functioning recruitment ecosystem in the end will improve the overall participant experience, the effectiveness of user research recruitment, and overall, the chances for you to build products that users love. And some closing thoughts from me. Just like a forest, recruitment ecosystems can grow. You can think of who would be the next team you want to start collaborate with, who else to be included in your ecosystem. Recruitment ecosystems are never perfect. They are different for every team. The complexity of your ecosystem will likely depend on many factors. For example, the size of your team or your current existing processes. But despite the forests, recruitment ecosystems won't grow naturally. Invest work, nurture relationships, and find mutual goals with your collaborators. Thank you for your attention. I hope there were some things you can take away from this presentation, and have a good day. Bye.
I find Anna so calming.
Like the forest.
Like the forest, exactly. And she was reminding me of, have you heard about this sort of more recent research? It's like a few years old, I think, about the mycelium network that sits underneath the forest. For those listening who haven't heard, it's like a mushroom network that is said to connect trees with one another so that they can nurture each other and kind of communicate with one another. And so a tree is not just standing there on its own, it's connected to the whole rest of the forest in a way. And I think Anna's reminded us that when you do recruiting, you need to work with everybody so everybody's connected and everyone can come together to make recruiting work.
Yeah. ResearchOps is the connective tissue, making sure everything communicates appropriately.
Yeah, maybe we can say we're the mycelium network. Here's a quote from Jared, a big +1 here. It's a great opportunity for research and research ops to lead by example when it comes to privacy and compliance. And I think it's, again, so true. It's oftentimes, I've certainly experienced that you'll be some of the first to really kind of push ahead on how do we speak to customers when we're doing research, but then that will get pushed into customer conversations and recordings that might be happening there as well.
Yeah, one thing we frequently talk about at Rally is that, especially for B2B organizations, your customers are your most precious asset by far, and especially the limited quantity of them typically because of the higher price they tend to pay. And so each interaction that you're having, each touch point must be very well thought out and securely managed and orchestrated, because there just carries with it a lot more risk than what you might think from the outside.
Yeah, exactly. We are running absolutely bang on time. Literally, we're going to have 20 minutes left for a Q&A. So let's hop straight on to our final presentation for today, which is Miriam Tahir Hicks, who we have got here today, I think. I think you're at the bottom of my screen, Miriam. No, there you are. Who is the Research Operations Coordinator at SurveyMonkey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miriam Tahir Hicks. I am a Research Operations Coordinator at SurveyMonkey. I've been in research ops for 4 years now, and in that time, I've seen just how tricky and complicated it can be to get people to join in our research studies. So today, I'm going to be sharing some ways that we can make that experience of research participation effortless for our participants and make it a breeze for them to say yes. People have a variety of reasons that they choose to participate in research. And as research ops, we can make that decision easier by creating a polished experience and presenting participants with a straightforward decision. I focused on 2 things to make the research recruitment effortless: inner work to understand our participants, and then using that knowledge to simplify the recruitment process. So I hope that you've been meditating, because inner work is all about looking inward to understand ourselves better. And in this case, we are wanting to understand our participants better. So by putting ourselves in our participants' shoes, we can empathize and advocate for them better. Some tools that allow us to do this are personas, journey maps, and participant feedback. Personas help us better understand the people that we're recruiting. When I was doing this, I learned that our focus tends to be B2B customers. And so these people are working professionals. They receive our emails and messages during working hours on their work emails. And so I want to make sure that the communications are succinct and readable and professional. Things like journey maps allow us to identify the critical touch points and decision moments during recruitment. By mapping out a user's journey, we can find those effort-filled moments and identify where we can implement a change to make decisions easier, and highlight the information that participants need at each step in our process. And finally, participant feedback is invaluable. Feedback comes in many forms, and even questions like that we get asked as frequently throughout the recruitment process tell us a lot of helpful things. For example, if we get asked questions like, is this a spam email? That indicates that there's a need for increasing some credibility in our communications. And then if we're getting questions about incentives, or if there's questions about where is my Zoom link, how do I sign into Zoom, that all indicates that we need to have clearer instructions for some of these things. So now that we understand our participants better, we can use that information to simplify things. From here, I start to channel my inner Marie Kondo and clean things up. My approach to simplifying things starts with reducing digital clutter in emails by helping our participants, and that helps our participants make a yes or no decision quickly. When minimizing clutter, we can start by looking at our outreach email, making sure that the subject line is succinct and clear. Research opportunity with SurveyMonkey, for example, and include a short blurb with key information bolded, like time commitment, study dates, and incentive amount. All of this helps our participants skim the email quickly, and when they need to move on to the next step, once they've decided that they're going to participate, it's really important to have a prominent call to action within the email. Once they've skimmed the email, they know exactly where to go to start scheduling. Another way to simplify the participant experience is to remove unnecessary touch points. And here's one thing that we did for this. Used click to agree options for NDA and consent forms upfront during scheduling. And this allowed us to avoid waiting for participants to complete additional paperwork later on. Here's an example of one of our scheduling pages, and this was a simple update that removed unnecessary back and forth and really improved the participant experience. Finally, share helpful info when participants need it. We can set ourselves and our participants up for success by sending timely reminders for upcoming interviews, confirm scheduling changes, and include information about incentives where necessary. Making sure the thank you email that they receive includes all the information about incentives and how they can opt in to future research opportunities as well. So now you have some tools you can use to better understand your participants and some golden rules you can use to apply that information to make participation effortless. And with that, I encourage you to use these tools and tips that I've shared with you to prioritize the research participant experience and let me know what works. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Happy to chat over LinkedIn or email. All right, thank you. Take care.
While Mariam was speaking, I was making some notes because there's such good action points in there. And it reminds me of really like a marketing funnel in a sense, where it's, like making the introduction skimmable, then having a really prominent call to action, removing unnecessary touch points, so like click to agree options, just enough information, or she said just in time information, and then like a re-opt in at the end. And so I love that she's got this very clear strategy around how you keep someone moving through the process and then bring them back in again into your system.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and if you layer that back into what I was talking about earlier, that our customers are our most precious asset, these touch points matter because it is a limited funnel in the end of the day. And if you miss a step or have a poor participant experience along the way that causes drop off, then in the end of the day, you're having to reach out to more of your customers in order to get those interviews booked or surveys completed. And that's maybe taking away the opportunity for someone else on your team to reach out to that customer because then they're in a cooldown or fatigued. And so these things do matter, especially as organizations compound and reach out to more and more of their users and enable more and more people to do research.
It reminds me of Anna's talk about the forest as well, and connecting with data and privacy and customer experience. And there are so many places that you can opt people in through their like customer experience or feedback coming through from customers. And so it reminds again of having a very clear funnel of how you communicate with your customers for their benefit and for the organization's benefit, but then also looking to places where customers are engaging with the organization, like say they're leaving feedback. Do they want to have a chat with a product manager or a designer or a researcher? They might love that at that point. Sure, maybe they'll be super angry or super happy. You can have that bias too. But where are all the places that customers are touching point with the organization already, and how can you get in there to opt them into research and to engage with them? Well, that was the end of our 6 presentations. I feel like I've learned a lot, and things have been also refreshed and kind of clarified between potatoes, cakes, swords, sticks. beekeepers,
mushrooms,
mycelium networks and mushrooms and forests,
Yes.
and marketing funnels. All right, I'm going to hand over to you, and we have got a full house. We've got Mariam, Laurie, Luana, Steph, and I think Shannon's staying off screen today. No, Shannon's coming in. Do you want to be in, Shannon? You can drop out. Yeah, Shannon's going out. Shannon's picked up a bug in the last day, so she's going to be in the background. Great to have you all here. Aaron, over to you.
Yes. Awesome. Well, firstly, thank you each for all the hard work and prep that goes into creating these presentations. We know it's no small feat, and again, we just love your creativity and passion. It all came through. So we could definitely open up to the audience for any questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat. You can either direct them at someone specifically, and we can put it on the screen, or just to the general group. And if there are no questions that come in from the chat, I'll start off with maybe one for our potato enthusiast, Steph over there. It's tempting to use that phrase. I would love to hear, back to the topic of screeners, kind of how you think about training, enabling maybe people who aren't experts within screening to be able to master this art by itself. 'Cause I feel personally like I learn something new every new screener that I create about a gotcha or a thing that I miss. So very curious to hear how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not wrong that screeners are sometimes like being on a treadmill where you learn something new every time. And so like, yeah, and especially, you know, as things evolve and people change, and we've even seen changes in the way people approach screeners outside of AI in the last like 6 months to a year, just because the way people work changes, the jobs they do change. What have we been doing a lot of? So we actually just recently built a screener bank, which I can't take credit for. I did not build it. One of my teammates did. But we basically compiled every question that we've kind of ever asked in a screener and tagged them with, you know, kind of what type of question, you know, and even what kind of thing, attributes they're looking for, and then down to, you know, single select, multi-select, all that kind of thing. So that is something that we're rolling out just now, and hopefully will be successful. You know, for somebody, we're rolling out a like PWDR research program, and so hopefully that will help folks to identify like, okay, well, I know I need somebody who does these tasks, but I don't know how to write the question in a way, and so then they can just like pick a question out, and we're hoping that we'll both makes things easier for our folks, and then also help with kind of reducing bad questions, accidentally biased screener questions, things like that. So that's a big one. And then we always go over the screeners with the researcher or whoever is running the study, and just kind of like give tips and tricks as we go. And even as we've kind of been doing that over the past few months, the researchers and everybody who is involved in that, like I see them taking that advice to heart and moving forward with it in the new screeners that they do.
That's great. Yeah, learn something every time, like a treadmill. I love it.
Yeah. In a
Awesome.
non-depressive way, I promise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So there was another question asked for Anna. Of course, she's not here because it is late at night. So we'll have one of you answered if you'd like. But someone asked from the crowd, Sarah, we don't have a specialized recruitment person, but I'd love to hear more about how you get support in your ecosystem and how much that support makes the work more possible. In particular, what does your data relationship and support back and forth look like? So do any of you feel particularly gravitated towards this question? So really about building cross-functional relationships and relationships with maybe the data teams, and how that works back and forth.
It's tough. We're all noodling
I'm trying
on it.
Yeah, I'm like, wait on. Is Sarah on the call? I'm curious if there's like if we can anchor that in like a problem or a challenge that we can kind of think, because I'm like, that's very high level. I'm not quite sure what the like question is or what the use case is. So I'm not quite sure from what perspective. So that's where I'm like, is there an example where you come across this where you think it's better or see it in a project? Oh, yes. Is that what she's saying?
Yeah. So maybe
Right now.
while she's typing the question,
it.
we can jump onto this one from Pedro. This is for everyone. In your opinion, what is the biggest misconception or mistake about participant recruitment that we as ReOps leaders need to fight against or to clarify even more for newcomers?
I would love to jump in on this one real quick, and sorry. I think for me, that it's easy and straightforward. I think people go, one, it's quick, like you can turn it around in 1 week. And so where I'm constantly communicating timelines and quality and trade-offs, and, I don't necessarily want to be a blocker and I don't want to say no, but I also have to manage expectations between speed to insights and what the quality might mean. It might mean that we might not get the best recruits, but we can do it really fast. It depends on your criteria and how specific and niche you're looking to go. So if you're wanting something based on their buying decision makers and very specific roles, very specific departments, then that's going to take more time versus I would love to talk to, this certain customer in this market and who, uses this product. Like that's very easy to me and I think a quick turnaround. But I think managing like what is involved in the process of recruitment and what those timelines look like. And then also knowing that trying to get people to understand who they want to talk to, right? So I think some folks come to you with a very clear idea. And you have to kind of like, and I notice when I ask them questions and I go, well, what about this? Have you thought about this? And they go, oh, that's great. No, I don't want to talk to this person. So I think assuming when you're working with your stakeholder that they know exactly who they want to talk to, they don't. I think you have to really dig in and try to understand the question they're asking and come with a context of all the past recruitment you've ever done and what are some other things that they should think about who that audience is going to be, because you're going to get ahead of that recruitment pivoting and changing mid recruitment, right? Where they go, oh, I didn't know that was an option. Now I'd like to talk to this. So scrap all of these other people you've recruited. And I think that also takes the stress and pressure off of the work that you're doing. So I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in or add something else to that.
Yeah, I do have a thing, because I think the most problem that I face here is because our product team pretty much wanted to do recruitment at all costs. Doesn't matter what the cost. I wanted to talk with that particular user or these particular people. In Brazil specifically, we have a culture in some companies in doing recruitment at WhatsApp, because our WhatsApp is pretty much our favorite tool in communication in Brazil. But we don't have really a legal way of doing it, because pretty much we use our personal number, and compliance doesn't agree with that. So when it comes to the problems that, yeah, I can really recruit this fast, or I can like call this user right now, because legal doesn't allow us to do it. It's not safe for us. It's not safe for the user. So I think the misconception that I saw is that recruitment is so easy that it has to be done at all costs, and it has a cost, and we cannot pay them as much often that they think that we could do it.
Yeah, 100% agree with the two of you. I think the idea that there's just like a list of everybody who uses the product out there, and we'll just go pick the people off the list, and we know everything about them, and we'll just call them up. And that was I was torn between that and this other thing. And I think the other really big misconception is the idea that the users are just waiting by the phone, waiting for us to call them up and invite them to participate, and they will drop everything to come talk to us for an hour, maybe sometimes tomorrow, or about something very, so it's not just there's unicorns in terms of profiles, and there's unicorns in terms of people who just like have time, because people have lives. They have to, like I said, we're never someone's number one priority, and I love that was very reflected in, I think, all of our talks. We're never the participants' number one priority. We probably shouldn't even be in the top 10. So it's up to us to prioritize that time, and it's really important to also like evangelize that concept to our teams and our design teams and product teams and everybody else who we interact with, that like this is not some special privilege that we are giving them. It is a privilege. It is our privilege to have their time.
Yeah, I do want to piggyback on that, because I love that what we struggle with a lot is they go, well, we're this, people in the company are like, oh, there's this big brand. They must be so excited to talk to us. And I go, they're not, they're busy. Their plates are running over. They have very limited time in their day. They're just trying to get everything done. And like, we're kind of poking them to get their input, especially for those higher level recruits. When we want to talk to larger roles and like maybe more mid-market businesses, especially like B2B recruitment, I think just kind of level setting with our stakeholders that this is the mind frame that they're in, and this is how we're approaching them. And it definitely takes having that conversation over and over and over.
Yeah.
And sometimes this card is not that great to convince them to participate.
Yeah, really, really interesting points. That's kind of why a lot of my thinking was, how can we make that participation easier? And like, one of the things that I notice a lot of product and design folks wanting to recruit a much larger number of people at, like 15, 20, not realizing that if they're trying to get quick insights, the larger number of interviews to go through is going to cost a lot more time to sift through and to get the insights from. So yeah.
Yeah,
awesome. I don't know if you have more to add. Feel free.
Yeah, now go ahead.
Go to them. The next question was for you, anyways. So.
Okay, so have you and your team noticed specific screener questions having a positive impact on participant show rates? If so, what kind of questions are they? Are there any common threads? So I think it's very much, it's not about specific questions. It is about the whole experience of the screener, right? Like, I think when we talk about, again, like respecting participants' time, people often just think that comes with the interview, and it's really about everything, right? The second that they see the thing that you are trying to get them to do, you should be respecting their time. And so building the screener in a way that you are simultaneously, it is a total balance. Like you have to kind of get them interested without showing them too much of what's going on. This is why I love to say, like, write a trailer, not a movie, right? Like you're not telling them everything that's going on, but you want to get them excited. So that, that is really important. And then in that post-screening process, really, making that personal connection, building the trust, which was another thing that I think everybody talked about, which was really, really important. If people trust you, they'll show up. And even then they might not. They might trust you and still have like life stuff going on. And but they definitely don't show up to a call or an interview with somebody they don't trust, like full stop. So yeah, building that trust in your communications. And Miriam had some really, really good advice on there, and like how to like reduce the amount of clutter you're sending to people, making sure you're just being very, very mindful and very demure of what you're sending people and how much you're interacting with them, and just again respecting that time. And I think the poll came back, most of us are B2B. Respecting their expertise too is really, really important. And also, sorry, one more thing. Respecting what's going on in the world too. We had a bunch of interviews booked the day of the CrowdStrike outage. So we were like, you know what? Cybersecurity folks probably really busy today. We're gonna we reached out to them and like we're like, hey, we totally understand if you're unavailable today. Like, we're gonna. It was a Friday, so we're like, we will touch base with you again on Monday. We hope you have a good weekend. Like, no, absolutely no pressure. So there's lots to keep in mind, but it's really important.
I was just going to add on to that too. It's like the cunning of writing screeners, right? And I like to start with your introduction, your email when you first send it out. Short, sweet, but also maybe say who you want to talk to, because you want to set that expectation that if that's not the role you want to talk to, they can go ahead and close this email. Don't waste your 5 minutes of clicking in, answering questions, finding out it's not right. They might be less inclined to do this next time. So without giving it all away and still writing your trailer, try and say, this is who we're looking to talk to, or this is what we're looking to learn. So right off the bat, they know whether or not to delete or click and take the screener. And then also saying, this screener is 2 to 3 minutes tops. Like this is not a lot of your time. I know someone in here in the chat mentioned that people really wanting to turn screeners into full-on quant and have a lot of complex questions. Absolutely not. My biggest thing is short and sweet, get it out of there, because you want them to keep clicking and coming back for new research studies. So yeah, being cunning, being direct, and also setting expectations is sort of like the 3 play there.
We are right at the top of the hour. We're actually 1 minute over. I feel like we have hit the tip of the iceberg in the amount of knowledge that all of you have. Right, Aaron? It's
Only the beginning. Yeah, we could
it's
do another
my God,
hour at least.
boggling.
Yeah.
It is boggling. You are all so incredibly knowledgeable. I feel this has been like a 101 crash course in participant recruitment, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you so much for your amazing talks, which will now be on YouTube. And also, as I said earlier, everybody who registered will receive an email with the talks as well. And thank you also for taking the time to join the panel. Also, thank you, Shannon, who's not on the panel, but is still answering questions. Her fingers have been going like lightning behind the scenes, answering questions in the chat as well. And finally, before we drop off, a massive thank you to Aaron Friedman at Rally, the modern user research CRM. I've got the tagline down, for making Rally Around possible, to be able to help you share all your knowledge, get it out of your heads, get it shared with other people. It's only just the start. We have got one more event of the Rally Around series. It's a 3-part series, and that is on the 25th. I think, Lauren, we've got the poster right at the start. I think it's the 25th of September. That should pop up soon. Lauren's looking for it. Here we go. It is the Wednesday, the 25th of September. Register for that as well. And we would absolutely love to see you there.
And if you're looking for something to do next week as well, in between our rally around, you can join us with for an AMA with Kate on her new book.
My book, an actual real thing. Look how big it is. It's not small.
Not small. So we'll read the whole thing in 1 hour live. It's gonna be a blast.
It'll be a blast. So I'll see you there, and see you the week after as well. It's the Festival of ResearchOps this September.
Best September ever.
Thanks, everybody.